Welcome to Happy Class Online School. So this is Mathematics Primary 5 for the first term and week 2. So this is the part 1, the first part. And the topic is fraction. So we're going to be talking about meaning of fractions, decimals, decimal and percentage with tons of examples. So meaning of fraction with examples. So what does fraction means? I mean, when you hear the word fraction in math, what does it mean? What what are the things you have to understand when you hear the word math, fraction, so that when you are working with fraction in the future, it will be easy for you to work your way around it, to be able to get the correct answer when you are dealing with fractions, and to understand what you are actually doing too. So the first is that fraction is a numerical quality that is not a whole number. So the one thing to point out here is that fraction is not a whole number. So fraction is not a whole number. It's also a numerical quality. That means it's also a number. So fraction is a number that is not a whole number. Another thing is that fraction is a part of whole. So this one might not be clear to you by now, but don't worry. When I give you the illustration, you'll be able to understand it better. But just keep in mind that fraction is a part of whole. It's part of whole. And then the fraction tells us how many parts of a whole we have. So you can recognize a fraction by the slash that is written between the two numbers. So more about a fraction, more about fractions. So we have a fraction. So we have a top number, which is usually called the numerator, and the bottom number that is called denominator. You understand? And then examples. Now I will list some numbers here. You are going to tell me if the number is fraction or the number is not fraction, based on my explanation that fraction have numerator, have the top number, and have a bottom number, and have a slash between it. So we have 2/4 here. This number is a fraction or not a fraction? If you said it's not a fraction, that means you have not understand what a fraction is. So 2/4 is an example of a fraction. 7/3 is also an example of a fraction. 4.25 is not a fraction, it's a decimal number. And 1/2 is a fraction. So 8.17 also is not a fraction. So if you look at this closely now, you see we have a number here, we have a slash here, or sometimes you can even write it back, but just don't worry about that. And we still have a bottom number. So the 2 here in the first one here, the 2 here is the numerator, that means the top number, and the 4 is the denominator, which is the bottom number. And the 7 here, we have 7 is the numerator, the top number, and 3 is the denominator. So this 4.25 is not it's a number, but it's not a fraction. And 1/2 is also a fraction. So we have 1/2 number and we have 1/2. So this one is the numerator, and this 2 is the numerator, and is the denominator, sorry. And we have this one as the whole number. So we have 8.17, which is also not a fraction. Now, what are the type of fraction we have? So the first one is the proper fraction, which is when the numerator is smaller. Now when the number at the top, the first number here, is smaller, and the second number, which is the denominator, is bigger. So like we have 1/2 now, that means 1/2 is a proper fraction. 3/5 is also a proper fraction. So 23/35 is a proper fraction, because we have the smaller number at the top here in the front here, the first one here, and the number below it is bigger, and the denominator is bigger. That means that's a proper fraction. And we have improper fraction, which is the opposite of proper, because we have the numerator is bigger. Now look at this one. Now we have 4/2. That means 4 is bigger than 2, so 4 is the numerator. So when you see a fraction like this, the fraction is an improper. So you have to understand all this, because in the future you have to be able to change from improper to proper, and from proper to improper, and from improper to mixed, and all kind of calculations you have to do between all the three type of fraction. So we now have 2 over 1 here. That means the first number here, which is the numerator, is bigger, and 1, which is the denominator, is smaller. So this 2 over 1 is also it's an improper fraction, and we have 5 over 3 and 6 over 3. Now, like 17 over 2, now you know 17 over 2 is also an improper fraction, because 17 is the bigger number and is at the top, and 2 is the smaller number, which is at the bottom, the denominator. And the last one, we have mixed fraction, which is sometimes also called mixed number. And a mixed number is a whole number and a improper fraction represented together. So when we have a mixed number like this, or a mixed fraction as it's sometimes called, we have 3 whole number. That means it has whole number and we have an improper fraction. If you remember what I explained to you here, as when I'm explaining the improper fraction, we have 1 over 2, which means that the numerator is smaller and the denominator is bigger. Now in this mixed number, now we now have a whole number, as I've explained it. That means a mixed number is a whole number and a proper fraction. So we have 5 whole number 2 over 5. That means we cannot see here a mixed number as 5 whole number 2 over 7, like 5 whole number 7 over 2. You understand? We can't have a mixed number like that. And now let's quickly go through the meaning of decimals and its examples. So first of all, meaning of decimal. So a decimal is a number that consists of a whole and a fractional part. That means it has 2 parts, a whole part and a fractional part. Now look at this number here. We have 14.85. It's not called 14.85, but 14.85. Now the first thing is that we have this whole part. This is the whole part. So 14 is the whole part, and we have, so 14 is the whole part, the whole number part. So this 14 is a whole number. Now we say 14, you understand? And we have the fractional part, which is the decimal part, you understand? The fractional part or the decimal part, which is 885. It's not called 85, it's 85. And we have a decimal number here. So we have decimal number. So that means a decimal, anytime you see a number like this, like 2.5, you know, a fraction contain a whole part. Sometimes this whole part can even be 0. You can see 0.2. So the decimal point here, if a decimal number have to have a decimal point, and it has just one. It used to usually have only one decimal point and have a decimal part here. You understand? So what are percentages? So fractions with 100 as denominators are known as percentage. That means anytime you see a fraction like 1 over 100 now, so 1 over 100 is the same as 1%, and it's usually write like this, 1%, like 1 and this sign here. So this percent sign is the symbol of percentage. Now this is an example. Let's say 31 divided over 100 now is 31%. Now can you guess the answer for 93 over 100 and 81 over 100? So if you're able to, you can pause the video and do it now. So the answer for this number, first one, is 93%, because we say 93 over 100 is 93% and 81 over 100 is 81%. So that's the end of the video. Thanks for watching.